Hello to you watching this video. Today I'm going back in time a little bit to a video I made about my man cave and how it was coming on. At the end of that video I showed off this build here, which is the Lego Downtown Tram. Now I had used a couple of different YouTubers' videos to do a few things to it. At that time I promised I would come back and revisit this, talk it through, and also the next modifications I wanted to make to this build, because I want it to go into my alternative world, and my alternative world is Star Wars orientated. There's quite a lot more bits that I'm going to be doing to it, as I will show you in a bit. But first of all, the modifications I made in the first place using those two YouTubers' instructions, or following mostly the bits that they had talked about in their videos. So the first person that I had used a video from was called Minifig Jez. One of the things that Minifig Jez had done is motorizing it, adding this extra carriage here, and that wasn't a problem at all. In preparation for this, I bought two sets, knowing that I was going to need quite a few different parts, and it was just easier to buy two sets and use the parts rather than working it all out on Bricklink and ordering different bits. Now I have an awful lot left over from the second set, so in retrospect it might have been a lot cheaper to buy the bits individually, but I made the choice I did at the time, and I can use all those parts on other things. So let's have a little look at this. The one thing I need to do to this is make it easier accessible to get to the battery box, because every time you want to turn it on and connect it, you have to take this lid off and obviously press that button there. So I am intending, a little bit like the Convey-X, to make a little hatch area to lift up so I don't have to take this off each time. Saying that wasn't that hard, but when you see the modifications I will be doing for this in a little bit, I'm going to make it a little bit more difficult to take it off on and off all the time, which you would need to do to run it. So yeah, that's the battery box. Obviously his instructions are quite clear and it didn't take too long. I think I had to change some of the patterning because he used a lot of those triangular type tiles and I didn't have them in these colours. So I've just made up my own design as I went along. I've left the tile in the middle. I haven't used any stickers on this build because I want to call it something of my own. I don't want to use those stickers. That's what I'm thinking at the moment anyway, so I'll probably have some of my own stickers printed up to make it more relevant to how I'm using it. It's quite an easy thing to do, and it's hiding the battery box. So then if we look at the actual train, or the train and carriage, Minifig Jez also closed up the spacings in between these, and I've managed to get them down even further still to the double Technic piece there. And it looks very, I mean, it's not much more than a one stud gap there now. So I was a bit worried about that. I had to check it on my turnings, but it does work. I mean, obviously it slows down when it gets to the turnings, but it does turn, not a problem. Yeah, I couldn't get it anymore, so spacing is good enough for me. I'm really happy with that. The original spacing of, I think it's a 3 Technic bar, is just way too much. I mean, it looks, yeah, it's quite massive. So it was a good mod to get this down like that. I wasn't sure how to change these pins, and in the end I just settled for leaving them because there wasn't much else I could do. I tried various pins, and because I have closed down this spacing, it's quite hard to join them now. I've used the brown and the dark grey, and I always put the brown in first because it's the smaller one, and then I lift up the grey onto the other hole and it falls in, and that's the easiest way I found to do this. So the next YouTube channel I used bits from was someone called The Green Brick. He had lowered the floors, which made quite a bit of difference. I mean, they were higher up and it looked a bit silly really. There was an awful big step from the ground to the floor, So lowering those floors really help it with pulling up to stations and, well, anything really. The other thing he was talking about was changing out that bracket down the bottom there, which is white, but instead of that, I made it a mixture of white and grey to lighten up the inside somewhat. I've kept this even in my modified final rendition, because you will see I swap out the colours of the seats. As much as I do like those aqua blue ones, I just thought it wasn't quite as in keeping with what I want to do, so I've changed them out for red and black seats. But yeah, I wanted some other colours than just red and black, so I've kept the dark grey here, the light grey and the white, just to give it a little bit of contrast. Lengthen the whole thing, so that made it a lot easier. I think the main reason he did this was so that there was more internal room. In the original one, there is just one seat each side, and he made a little bit more space. The green brick also used magnetic couplers, the same as the trains do. Now, I did this on the front carriage, or the front train bit, and also the next carriage. And then when I got to the power box carriage, I found that I couldn't get the heights aligned because of the actual battery box that goes in there. It may be something that I'm doing wrong, but because the two people hadn't done all the modifications, they were split between two different people, so all the modifications didn't always work together. So it was a bit of trying to figure out what would work and what wouldn't work. And no matter how many times I tried changing things to get the heights right for the magnetic couplers, I was always one plate out. So in the end, I gave up on that and went back to the Technic bar coupling system rather than the magnetic coupling system. I can't say I'm unhappy with that. That gives it a bit of a difference between this and a train, between the tram and the train. Probably if I'd had the magnetic couplings, I'd be all happy about that, but we are where we are and I can live with that. I'm going to show you some pieces that inspired my modifications. So these pieces here, and I've got plenty of them, are what I use an awful lot of in my modifications. So you may well be able to guess where I'm going with this. These mods that the guys made, Minifig Jez and the Green Brick, are pretty good. They're good enough for most people, they're fine, and I would use them no problem on their own as they stand. The thing is, I need something more Star Warsy. So there we go. This is the Maul line. You may be able to see him in there. Our very own Darth Maul is ferrying people around on his very own tram line. At the moment, he has a load of clones. And I haven't filled this carriage up yet. But yeah, so this is my plans going forward. As you can see, we have lots of spiky bits, which is very synonymous with Darth Maul. We also have some, I guess they're electrical components, but I've made them inspired by his lightsaber there. I did try to do them both ends, but because it's off-centered, it doesn't really look right. I suppose I could center it and add two more, but because I need to do it for the other carriage, I think it's perfectly fine off-centered like this. So yeah, there's a mixture of the two lots of horns, or the two lots of tusk pieces, whatever you want to call them, that make up this horny part of the roof, for a better word. Before I show you all the changes, one change I'm not sure if I'm going to make are these grey pieces on top. I was thinking of changing them to black, but because we have, I really like this in this colour here, I don't want to change that. And I have grey, the internal bits in the carriages, so I did think it still ties those colours in together, but it might look nicer in black. I'm really not sure. Looking at the different things I've done, you can probably see that I've added quite a few slopes and grill pieces and just various bits of decoration along the roof. I've also changed it up here a little bit and added one more piece on the windscreen, which, you know, it was completely left blank before, which I didn't think looked as good. And this gives him a bit of a sunscreen in black, and it's just more menacing. The same with just moving some of these bits around, it just gave it a bit more of a spiky look, which is obviously the look of Darth Maul. The one thing I suppose, no, I'm not saying I'm not unhappy with it, but I've had to use a lot more smaller tile pieces rather than the longer pieces which help bind it all together. But it's not, it still comes apart fairly easily, and you can get in there to get to the figures. I've got 2 seats up here, but they're rather crammed in. They don't fit properly. So at the back, I thought I'd give them space and just use the one seat, and then other people can stand up. And the same with here, they've got standing room. So I'll probably repeat that pattern all the way along. So that's as far as I've got with it at the moment. I'm going to, this part of the train now, add this part in as well, modify it so we've got the entire length all mauled up, ready to hit the track as soon as I finish that, which won't be too long at all. And that will be coming in a video very soon. I will see you at the next step. My alternative mods are just way more appropriate for my alternative Star Wars world. Just comparing the 2 front ends of the trains together side by side, I think there's a big noticeable difference, and I'm very happy with how that looks. To me, that looks awfully plain now, and when you look at that, that's just, yeah, that really works for me. I've just shown you between those 2 fronts, smooth forward, and I've added that sunscreen area where it had the exposed studs there. I'm fine with exposed studs, but I just thought it looked a bit strange. I just think just capping that off looks really good, and moving this piece here forward allows you to play with more bits back there. I did like these grill pieces, but I've had to move them back because obviously I need the tile with the hole in it there for the tusk piece. I suppose there's a little change between these 2 pieces here. I changed the clip type, and I don't know whether you can see, it's just moved around a little bit really, but it's not too much difference I suppose. So there she is, finally finished and loaded with commuters. I had to curl her around like this to get her all in one shot. So it's quite a long train, to be fair, or tram. It's still a bit of a thing whether this is a train or a tram. It's marketed as a streetcar tram. Yeah, I'm going to carry on calling it a tram. I don't want to have a train, to be honest. I want to have a tram line going round. So I think I prefer using the term tram. But now anyway, it's the Maul line. So what do you think of all the horny little spikes all over it? I think it works quite well. Not everyone's going to agree with me, I know. There's definitely going to be some purists watching this that are going to be like, ugh. But for me, it really adds something to it, and it's what I want to achieve across my metropolis. I do get my fix of doing pure Star Wars when I do my mocks in my Besta units and a few other little bits, so it's nice to let go, get stuck into this imaginary Star Wars alternative world. So let's have a little look at those people riding this tram at this time. People, aliens, clones, and anything else in between. So here we go. We've got some clones there hanging out, a mixture of phase 2, phase 1, 501st, whatever. Some wear their helmets, some don't. Same with a few different Mandalorians, some wearing their helmets, some not. Nothing on that one because that's the battery box. Oh, and there's me. Or the rendition of me I made at Liverpool. Not so sure on the yellow skin, not so sure on the pure brown hair, as that went a long time ago and it's now got plenty of grey in it. But I'm there looking out the window. Who's that next to me? Oh, it's a nice blue-headed alien. So he's taking a ride, an Ugnaught and a spy. And in here we have a bit of a mixture. We have some Jawas, we have Pelimoto, and a lady with a dragon. Yeah, the lady from the Dungeons and Dragons with the pet dragon, and Pelimoto does love to pet something small and cute, as we know. Oh, and there's a dragon alien man there sitting in the back watching proceedings. Look at that. It's quite a twist around there. There she is. That's her finished and packed with commuters. Anyway, so that's it for today and this video on my modifications and other people's modifications for motorizing, extending and, in my opinion, improving this tram, which is now the Maul line. If you've enjoyed this video, which I do hope you have, then please do remember to do all that lovely like and subscribe stuff, and hopefully I'll see you in a video very soon. And don't forget, this will be running on its tracks very soon, round and round. So that's something to look forward to.